Recently I took on the biggest physical challenge of my life. I decided to climb the 3 highest peaks in my home county of Yorkshire in under 12 hours and without any specific training beforehand. This would require using all of my current fitness level, as well as managing my health condition, MOG antibody disease. I'm Scott Tarpey and I was diagnosed with MOG antibody disease, or MOGAD, in 2020. And since then I've been advocating for and supporting others diagnosed with the condition through this YouTube channel and the My Myelitis website. At the worst point in my condition, I was bedbound, unable to walk due to the lack of strength in my legs and limited sensation in my body from the neck down. Thankfully, after some great care from the NHS, or the National Health Service, I spent a lot of time learning about the condition, and then after lots of physical therapy, I made a great recovery. My overall fitness is good, but has my recovery been good enough to tackle 3 mountains in under 12 hours? This challenge that I'm going to be undertaking is called the Yorkshire 3 Peaks Challenge, which is a 24-mile circular walk across Yorkshire's 3 highest peaks. The peaks being Ghent, Whernside and Ingleborough, and the aim is to complete the entire circuit in under 12 hours. And this challenge is tough, even for experienced walkers. The weather can often be unpredictable on this route, and rain, sun and the wind can make this challenge even harder. So why am I doing it? I'm fundraising for the MOG Project, a non-profit dedicated to supporting people with MOG antibody disease. They were a great help to me when I was diagnosed, and after 5 years of living with the condition, I want to give something back. If you'd like to donate to the MOG Project and my fundraiser, there is a link in this video description, and any donation would be greatly appreciated. But that's not the only reason why I've attempted this challenge. I want to show others with MOG antibody disease that it is possible to regain strength and regain what was lost from diagnosis. So how did the challenge go? Firstly, it started by waking up at 4 AM, a very early start, but this was to make sure that I had everything packed and ready before getting picked up at around 5 AM. And after picking up other members of the group, we arrived at a pub close to the bottom of the first mountain, Ghent. Ghent is the smallest of the 3 mountains, standing at 694 metres, and we started the ascent at 6:50 AM. The weather was a bit cloudy, but it was expected to be sunny with a few moments of rain in the morning. And as you can see in this photo, the sun is peeking through the clouds at this point, and at this time in the morning I thought it was quite a nice photo with the mountain in the background. The first climb started not too badly on these stone tracks, but it quickly began to get much steeper. The ground began to steadily rise as we made our way up to the first main climb. The climb was okay using these rocky steps that had formed on the mountain, but there were a few places where we had to scramble using both our hands and feet. But after persevering, we finally made it to the top. I took this picture just after the main part of the climb, and as you can see, we're amongst the clouds. Shortly after this point, we arrived at the summit of Ghent. The first mountain completed at 7:40 AM, around 50 minutes since starting the challenge, and these are some of the views from the peak. After a short break to take some photos, we began to make the descent down into the valley and towards the next 2 mountains, and then disaster struck. In order to start the descent, we had to cross over a stone wall which had a gate built into it, and as I was stepping over the gate, I felt a ligament on the outside of my right knee twang. Instantly I had a really sharp pain there, which seemed to get worse every single time I took a step, and as we started walking, the pain did get worse. As the descent steepened and where my boots were impacting on the stone blocks which basically made up the path. But I decided to continue just to see if the pain would go away after a while. But the big risk on this was being that if it did get worse and I had to abandon the other 2 climbs, I would be a lot further away from the car than where we were now. Now thankfully, after compensating for a bit, when I was walking, most of the pain went away, which is great because this walk from the top of the first mountain to the second mountain is the biggest part of the walk. And after around an hour of walking, I took this photo where you can see the other 2 mountains which make up part of the challenge. They sit much closer to each other than the one that we just did, and in order to get there we have to walk through a lot of fields and a beck before coming to Ribblehead Viaduct, and this is where we decided to stop for some food. We stayed for around 20 minutes to eat, rest and stretch, as well as change into a fresh pair of socks to prevent blisters. Then we were back moving towards the second and tallest mountain in the challenge, Whernside. Whernside stands at 736 metres tall, but despite this, if you climb it from the route that we took, it's actually quite steady. There weren't really any steep parts and no need to scramble either. But the downside to this is that because you're going up at such a gradual rate, it does take an absolute age to climb it. Here are some of the photos that I took whilst climbing up, and in one of them here you can actually see the first mountain in the background, as well as a third mountain in Ingleborough starting to appear as we come up to the peak. At 12:20 PM, which is around 5.5 hours after starting, we finally reached the peak of Whernside and the second mountain was done. After a short break for a quick bite to eat, we started the walk down towards the final mountain, Ingleborough. Now the descent from this side of the mountain was really steep, and a lot of it involved these rocks, which were almost polished from the amount of people that have walked on them. I mentioned earlier that the weather can have a big effect on this challenge, and if it was raining, these steps would have been very slippy and not very fun to climb down. These stones are also very hard to walk on, and the impact that your knees take from walking on them is pretty rough. I'd actually thought that going up the mountains was going to be the hard part, but after this part I wasn't too sure. But eventually we got to flatter ground, and even a tarmacked path across one farmer's field that we definitely wasn't expecting. Some of the animals also came to say hello, but it wasn't long before I had to walk back onto more stone paths and much more marshy land as we made it towards the final mountain. Ingleborough stands at 723 metres tall, but most of the ascent isn't too bad until you get right up to the mountain face, and there is a very steep climb involving lots of scrambling. We did stop for a 5-minute break before tackling this one, but we didn't want to stay still for too long as our legs were starting to cramp up. This was the toughest climb of the 3 mountains so far, especially due to being tired after covering so much ground beforehand. This part of the climb was also very busy as there were lots of other people also trying to complete the challenge. But at 3:20 PM, or at the 8.5 hour mark, we finally made it to the top of Ingleborough. Now 8.5 hours sounds like a fantastic time, but the challenge is not over yet. To complete it, you have to walk back to where you started, which was a 5-mile walk away. We still had plenty of time left at this point, but I was definitely struggling. Everywhere seemed to ache and my legs were starting to really tighten up, which made walking much more difficult. And to make things worse, the descent from Ingleborough is just as steep as the climb, and every step hurt. As you can see from this photo here, this is what some of the pathways on the descent looked like. Anything involving rocks was really tough on the knees and feet at this point. And this part mentally was probably the toughest part of the challenge, as a lot of the motivation that you get from climbing all the peaks has gone at this point, and you just want to get back to the start and finish it. You know, you've done the hard bit, or what you think is the hard bit of climbing the 3 mountains, but it's not over yet. You still have to make your way back. And at this point, the path just seems to go on forever. Eventually we got into flatter ground and then back into Horton, which is a town where we started, but did we make it in time? So we got back to the car at 11 hours and 20 minutes. 40 minutes ahead of the target time, which I was very happy with. Overall, this was a massive success for me, and I still think the biggest physical test of my life so far, especially when considering I did this with MOG antibody disease. I still suffer from some of the effects of that, including fatigue, but it was great to push through this and achieve a very significant physical challenge. But a quick reminder is that I undertook this challenge to support the MOG Project, and if you would like to donate to the MOG Project, you can find the link in the video description. I would love to hit the $1,000 donation target for this challenge, so anything that you have would be greatly appreciated. And just remember, if you are living with MOG antibody disease, that you're not alone. There are me and plenty of other people around the world living with this condition, and also thriving too. You don't need to go climb a mountain, keep moving forward, and honestly I think you'll be surprised at what progress you can make in your recovery. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as I'll be coming out with a lot more videos on MOG antibody disease, and no matter where you are in the recovery process, I'm sure they'll be useful to you. On this video here, you can actually watch my 5-year anniversary of MOG antibody disease video and what I've currently been up to. So thanks for watching again, and I'll catch you in the next video.